गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। वणक्कम, प्रणाम, गुड इवनिंग एंड सत श्री अकाल। आज हम बात करने वाले हैं फॉल आउट ऑफ द इंडिया कनाडा स्पैट विद मेजर जनरल हर्षा कक्कड़। राइट एट द आउटसेट मैं जनरल कक्कड़ को वेलकम करना चाहता हूं गना शॉट में।
Thank
इट्स
you,
ग्रेट
sir.
टू हैव यू बैक ऑन द शो, हर्षा।
Thank you, sir. It's a
राइट,
pleasure to be here.
yeah, so it is for me. It's always great to meet old friends, even if it's virtual. Right? मैं सबको बताना चाहता हूँ कि जनरल काकड़ जो है ना, बहुत बिजी हैं। वो गोल्फ खेलते हैं, सैक्सोफोन बजाते हैं, वन आर्टिकल अ डे लिखते हैं, and he's got time even for Ghana Shot, which is great, right? And he writes on tremendous number of articles. So we'll get on because he has another appointment after this. So we'll have a quick thing and then we'll. Okay. So what I'll do, Harsha, is just go over the fundamentals which have happened in the past, you know, few days on this entire spat. जैसे आपको पता है, this is the reaction which came from Canada the very next day कि भाई everyone left poor Trudeau to be eaten up by the tiger, which is happening right and royal. And don't miss the tail, which has India on it. And then, of course, within Canada, on this spat, there have been some reaction. They started taking down all those posters. Uh, जो बोल रहे थे कि इंडियन कैन डिप्लोमेट्स को मार दो, ये वो असैसिनेट करो, वो सब हटना शुरू हो गया। और यूएसए में भी रिएक्शन हो गया कि भाई एफबीआई हैज गॉन एंड टोल्ड पीपल, ठीक है, कि भाई सिख्स को थोड़ा सावधान रखो, आपको भी खतरा हो सकता है, थोड़ा आपका हरकत कंट्रोल में आए। बट नॉट विथ स्टैंडिंग ऑल दिस, वी वेंट थ्रू द कॉर्ड मिनिस्टर्स मीटिंग इन न्यूयॉर्क. That seems to be going on straight. So there is some amount of convergence and closure to the case. What I see, of course, the ramifications are more. And last but not the least, the Canadian chief was also here for the Indo-Pacific Army Commanders Conference. So all in all, while the issues involved, the India-Canada spat has thrown up many questions and all that. Uh, it, it's getting back on track in some manner, but some larger issues are also brought up, have come up. ये मैं मोटे मोटे चॉइस के ऊपर आपसे आपका राय जानना चाहता हूँ। आप बताइए, फिर विल टेक अप इश्यूज व्हिच वी कैन डिस्कस। आप बात कीजिए एंड आई रिक्वेस्ट योर entire take on this spat and then we'll take it forward.
See, first thing, sir, which few people know, I have attended the National Security Studies course in Canada. Of course, that
Okay.
was in 2006. That was with the Canadian Forces in the Canadian Forces College in Toronto. Interacted with the government, interacted with the top hierarchy, including the CDS of the Canadian Forces. उसने मुझे, in 2006, he made a comment. He says, in Vancouver alone, I have 1 million Sikhs. But
Okay.
I don't have a single one who's in the Canadian Forces. वो reserves join करेंगे. They volunteer for the RCMP. They will volunteer for anything else. But they're not coming into the Canadian Forces. That was a statement when I ran into him towards the initial first part of the course. Subsequently, I get a message कि नहीं, अब थोड़ा change होगा, because the recruiting officer that we have placed in the major Canadian, the Sikh community area, he's fallen in love with a Sikh girl. They're getting married. So possibly now we will get some Sikhs coming into the Canadian forces. Now, within Canada, उस समय, if I'm looking at 2006, ठीक है, it's been almost 20 years. But if you remember, 2006 is also 20 years after Blue Star.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, even then, I mean, the Sikh community was so helpful. मैं एक दो बार फंसा हूँ, and they've always, been very friendly and generally that is the attitude of the Indian community in Canada. अब ये जो members हैं, जो ones who are now raising this slogan, they are few and far in between. Reason is that firstly, quite a lot of them are being brought into Canada illegally. There is a business, I know मेरा एक JCO है who's in Vancouver, retired JCO of my unit. He keeps talking to me and he comes to India. Imagine the status. He's an ex-army. He was a subdar with me in my unit, settled in Vancouver with his children. Wife के medical treatment के लिए he comes back to Punjab. He says, I can't afford to do it in Canada. He says not only it's not the cost part, because all that is covered by the state, but he says itna waiting time hai, doctors not available. He says it's a pain. It's better to come here and use ECHS.
Oh.
So that is the status. And I mean, he tells me, he says the business that is there going on, you get married to a Canadian girl, you come here, they get divorced, Kagazi Karwai. That is how a lot of people are being dragged in from Punjab to Canada who are being pushed into the movement. Now, hua kya hai? Let's, leaving the SPAT, the first point that we need to understand on the SPAT is what Trudeau is claiming, और जो US का comment है in terms of the Five Eyes input, it is intelligence. Evidence will flow from the time if you have CCTV cameras, you have a witness, आपके पास कोई arrest है, and then the link starts. ना आपके पास CCTV camera है, witness कह रहे हैं some Sikh people possibly wearing headgear देखा भागते हुए through the park. You have no arrests. What you have is intelligence. When India shared this intelligence with the Canadians, कि भाई, this is the intelligence we have on the Khalistan elements in your country.
They did
Canadian
nothing.
government का response था that intelligence does not become evidence.
Evidence. Yeah.
Now, today, if you have intelligence, it is not evidence. Secondly, आपको intelligence, how did you get it? You got it by snooping. Snooping is against the Vienna Convention. Now,
On
that
diplomats.
is why UK...
खास करके on diplomats.
Yeah, that is there. And never with friendly nations.
Yeah.
Now, UK, Australia, New Zealand, the balance of the G7, सबने distance कर लिया. Nobody wants to get and admit that we shared intelligence and this is what he has.
Yeah.
US is a neighbor, वो थोड़ा बहुत चैं करेगा. But you look at the way how India has exploited it. Leave out, I am not coming into whether India is responsible or not. वो हम अलग से.
Yeah.
All right. How have we exploited it? For a long time, we wanted to stop OCI cards. We wanted to stop the funding using NIA. पर अगर आप OCI cards को stop करो, आप funding को stop करो, आप visa stop करो, you will be responsible for the diplomatic war between India and Canada. Now, Trudeau ने आपको plate के ऊपर gift कर दिया.
सब कुछ दे दिया.
By raising the accusation. So the first thing we did, we stopped visas. Whenever you stopped it, you stopped it in September. The festival season starts now. This is the time when all Indo-Canadians come back to India because the winters are starting in Canada. The festival seasons are starting in India. Maximum packed flights from Canada to India are now. आपने visa बंद कर दिया. Now your next stage is you're stopping OCI cards. Third, you're stopping funding. Now, by blocking OCI cards, you are leaving Khalistanis in Canada itself. By stopping the funding to Punjab, you are reducing the influence in Punjab of the gangster element in Canada. Now, only thing left for you is to cry in Canada. Now you look at the impact of the words of Doval to Jack Sullivan of the US NSA. Usko Doval ne bola, the only reason we have not got after Pannonen is because we know he's a CIA agent. Next question that is to be considered is, why were the intelligence agents, जो Nijar's son has himself admitted that every week, at least twice a week, he would meet the intelligence agents of Canada.
Yeah.
Is the Canadian government protecting him? Are they using him as a card against India? And may not be Canada, maybe Canada, US combined. Now you look at the way the game has come. And all because we have now shown two fingers and we've said, you give us evidence, don't give us intelligence.
Yeah.
How do you convert intelligence to evidence? You cannot. So if you say, I've got this intelligence of you people talking, that is not evidence.
No, even if you get that, it's illegal.
It's illegal. So,
Illegal.
and the next question is, India is going to ask, who is the one जिसने आपको दिया है? And until you give us the proof where it has come from, we are not going to accept it because it could be fake. So with the
not only
bargain
that,
now,
not only that, if you do wiretapping and all that, have you got legal clearance of your own country to do wiretapping? You can't do wiretapping.
it is illegal under the Vienna Convention, so it's out. You
Oh.
can't trail diplomats. It's out. The interesting part, agar aap dekho, the impact of the OCI cards was visible within the impact of the grabbing of properties of Khalistanis was visible in 24 hours. The protests in June, July, jab Amrit Pal got arrested, the protests then had a few hundreds. Abhi to 40 bhi nahi the. Where have they run? They all know properties will go in India, to bachega kya unke ghar walon ke paas? They cannot enter India again, to kya bachega? And that is the status which is on today. So you actually have the cards in India's hand. For you to prove the direct involvement of India is not going to be easy in a case.
No, it will never be there.
नहीं, अगर आप याद करो sir, the Israeli attack on the Munich perpetrators, the only one which failed in Sweden was when the Israelis got arrested because of a blunder. Moment you got arrested, they could prove Israel is responsible. Without an arrest, how do you prove Israel is responsible?
Yeah.
To maybe 10 years hence, Netflix will come out with a series saying that India did this, and they will come out with some actors with that, but that's a different ballgame. But there is no proof.
और तब तक यार बहुत चीज बदल जाएगा. India will be a great power by 10 years. उसमें तो दो राय नहीं है मेरे को.
And sir, you see, now the problem in the West is there have been a number of incidents. Pakistan में 3-4 गए हैं.
Yeah, frozen.
Canada में एक और उसके बाद has also died. So now the perception across, whether it's true, whether it's not there, because no intelligence agency ever admits that we are doing it. Israel ने कभी माना नहीं. But the fear around the world is India can hit.
Yes.
Whether India is hitting or not, I'm not going to question. Whether India is using a third party to do it, I'm not going to question. But today, there's another fact. You have issued 10 lakh bounty, you've issued a 5 lakh bounty, issued a 7 lakh bounty. जो भी मारेगा bounty claim करेगा is entitled to it. He may be anybody. He may be a Mexican cartel which is operating in Canada.
ठीक है.
He may be a dushman who's operating in Canada. Who knows?
क्या लेना
They will claim the money. So it suits India, whatever happens.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think मेरे हिसाब से ये जो भी हुआ है, it's been very premature. मैं तो हर वक्त यही बोलता रहता हूँ अपना चैनल में. इंडिया के दो फ्रेंड थे, एक इमरान खान और जी जिनपिंग. राइट, इमरान खान ने पाकिस्तान को नष्ट कर दिया और जी जिनपिंग ने चाइना को दो दिया. अब ये तीसरा आ गया ट्रूडो, जिसने कनाडा को फिनिश कर दिया.
He has actually given you a gift in your hands.
Gift in your hands.
Gift दे दिया. Now OCI cards can go against UK Khalistanis, American Khalistanis, Canadian Khalistanis.
Everyone. Right. I mean,
he has actually created the fear of raw. यहाँ तक कि sir, if you saw the photographs of Panun when he came, he had 4 or 5 bodyguards. What is he doing? वो वहां घर बैठ के वो ऑडियो निकाल रहा है. We will convert the ICC into an international terrorist. वो सब बकवास है. Whatever.
Nay, I think what you have said as far as the local thing and as far as this issue is concerned, I think India has come out trumps. आप बाकी कंट्री जितने बोल सकते हैं. But let me ask you, hasn't this changed the ground rules in our dealings with the West? And
Sir,
suddenly there's a thing there. I think there's a realization that look, you're dealing with a different animal.
so
India is no more.
one thing is got very clear to the West. India does not back down.
Yeah,
In fact, even in the US, अगर आपको याद होगा, sir, when US commented on Indian human rights and Jaishankar was in Washington, in a press conference the same day in the Indian embassy, he said, we also raise human rights issues of the US.
yeah,
So it was a rejoinder. Up here, no country has questioned India except that they will now ensure neither will San Francisco or London, where the two places where the Indian embassies got damaged. No country will ever let that happen again
yeah, yeah, it'll happen.
because
It'll
they're
happen.
aware of what India can do. We
Can do.
immediately put up that toilet outside the High Commissioner of London setup. We removed his security. Next day, everything changed in London. Today, India is not a country to tamper with.
Yeah, I agree with you. Look, let
We
me
have
put.
responded everywhere hard.
Yes, I have. I have always believed that India has always responded hard. You go back to the time, when Mrs. Indira Gandhi virtually walked out on Nixon and Kissinger, 70s, early 71, when she went on the tour, and she said, go to hell to both of them. Go back to the time when we stayed down the, USS Enterprise, which came just off the Chennai coast, right? We go back to the time when we've gone through all sanctions due to the Pokhran test, sanctions to the later tests we did, or we went under the missile MTCR due to all our missile tests. As late as say recently, they were still talking of CATSAS with us. You remember this when we bought the S400. ठीक है
But
ना?
that is also
So,
ended because they realized that
and
we are not going to budge.
we're not going to budge. One is that you're not going to budge, and second, you've grown too big. The values in life, in the international scene have changed.
Sir,
India's
like you
role and
said,
stature has changed.
sir, I'd like to add to what you said. Today, the world only respects power. Economic and military power is what is respected. Today, with both and with a solid diplomatic power, India is not a nation to tamper with.
Tamper with.
Trudeau ने गलत
Uh,
कदम लिया, he is now paying for it.
uh, look, I mean, let me put it this way. ट्रूडो ने जो गलत कदम लिया मेरे से कुछ लेना देना नहीं, वो तो पे करेगा. बट ही इज पुट लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स फॉर इंडिया इन प्लेस. ये मैं बताना
हाँ हाँ
चाहता हूँ. दैट्स व्हाट
वो
ओके. आप चाइना दिल्ली में ना आज एडिटोरियल आया है, एक ओपिनियन ऑपेड आया है कि भाई देखो, दे आर नाउ वूइंग इंडिया, है ना?
हाँ
दे आर वूइंग इंडिया कि भाई यू डोंट बिलीव इन देम, यू बिलीव इन अस. सो सडनली चाइना हैज आल्सो चेंज्ड द स्टैंड्स. Whether
now
they
you're
see an
talking of
opportunity
China.
in,
Now that you're talking of China, just then Trudeau का accusation आया and India hit back and threw that diplomat back out. A Chinese op-ed had a sentence, and the sentence was, when handsome boy Trudeau came to India, the cold stare that he got, nothing could have been colder than what Modi gave.
older than that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there are two ways. The fact is that overall, it has actually this incident has changed the global perception of India. That's my view. Suddenly,
Absolutely.
you find China respecting you. China. आप साउथ चाइना मॉर्निंग पोस्ट का पिछले एक हफ्ते का आप ऑपेट्स देख लीजिए, ओपिनियंस देख लीजिए, आर्टिकल्स देख लीजिए. देयर आर लॉट ऑफ issues about India. Some critical because they see a competitor. Some, trying to say, okay, yeah, dekho, India is someone not to be trifled with. That is a change. Fair. You see the strange silence from the West, where they suddenly realize they can't trifle with India. And, अगर आप ये 4-5 साल पहले ले जाओ, why 4-5 साल? Even during the farm loss there was a lot of chitter putter from USA. There were a lot of tweets from USA during the farm law agitation, right? Against democracy and rights, and that all this we are erosion of democracy in India and all that nonsense. All that is gone. There's
Sir,
no.
no, now that you're mentioning it, there are two things that are coming out.
Yeah.
Number one, let's wait for Jay Shankar to meet Jack Sullivan and his counterpart in Washington, possibly in the next 2-3 days. Let us see how let us see how they put it across. वो भी ज्यादा प्रेशर नहीं डालेंगे, उनका
नहीं नहीं
सिर्फ
प्रेशर तो हटो.
अच्छा. Secondly, today in Canada, the entire civil servants have gone on strike. There are about
Yes.
over 20,000 of them or 30,000 of them on strike today. They want increase in salaries. Now, if Trudeau cracks down, जैसे उसने किया truckers के साथ, you're going to find India also jumping in the fray
And fingering them.
and figuring them on the issue. Why are you looking at it? Where is your democratic rights now? Where is your right to
Yes.
protest now?
No,
So
इसमें
now it will be an
look.
official government of India response.
Yeah, on that I have just know this thing. That's why I showed that cartoon. Whoever did that cartoon captured it well.
Very well.
I'll get that cartoon back. Let's discuss that cartoon, because that cartoon to me, it's not left my thing. देखिए, इसमें Albanese from Australia,
हाँ.
Sunak and Biden all have they don't want to leave the tiger. And they by Trudeau can go to hell because they see value, right?
That is
After
where the
all,
difference is.
differences. Oh,
Because they
right.
know
That's the
which country they need.
need. And you see, the only country, I mean, मैं हर वक्त बोलता रहता हूँ, the only country which can stand up to China, forget the GDP and all that nonsense. Because right, वो the GDP आज पैसा है, कल पैसा नहीं होगा आदमी के पास. Right? The only country which can stand up, the only military which can stand up to China is India.
Is India.
The
कोई शक नहीं.
only country which has the scale and size to match China is India. Okay, the only country which can make the Indo-Pacific, safe is India. The only country which can put this corridor through, जो अभी ये G20 में बात किया था IMEC, वो इंडिया मिडिल ईस्ट इकोनॉमिक यूरोप कॉरिडोर is India. ये इंडिया निकाल दो इन चीजों में तो कुछ नहीं रहा.
That is why they want today everywhere. I mean, today if you're looking at Africa, it's India again.
India, yeah. And
you
I
want
want
support of the global south, it is India.
India again. And मैं सबको ना एक चीज बताना चाहता हूँ, जो भी you see US से China has positioned itself, वो सब बोलते हैं कि भाई हम ग्लोबल साउथ को मदद करेंगे. पर आप देखिए, जब चाइना और किसी वेस्टर्न ये अफ्रीकन लीडर का मेल मिलाप होता है, जी जिनपिंग और उसका, तो हाथ मिलाते हैं, वो हाथ मिलाते हैं और खुश होते हैं, बड़ा स्टेटमेंट आ जाता है. जब G20 में अफ्रीका को दाखिल किया गया, द प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ कॉमरास केम एंड उसने मोदी से गले मिलाया. उसने खुद बोला कि इंडिया इज अ सुपरस्टार, क्या सुपर पावर. ये मैंने नहीं बोला, उसने बोला. सो द चेंज ऑफ स्टेटस ऑफ इंडिया, आई थिंक इसमें काफी उभर के आया है. I mean, I'd like you to comment on that. That's the important thing which I think every one of us have to understand.
See, the fact is that today, I just want to take out the words from Jay Shankar that will explain this. He spoke of vaccine atharpide. Now, if you look at it, sir, Western nations during COVID, they were storing vaccines. Canada had thrice the number of vaccines than its population. The US had double the number. The only country जो सबको support कर रहा था was India. Today we put a ban on rice, we put a ban on wheat. From 1st October is a ban on sugar, but countries in the global south will get it.
Get it.
That is India.
Yeah, that
is the difference that we are creating.
Yeah, and And I think we need to press this advantage home, because see, at the end of the day, there is no doubt our affiliation with the West is deep for many reasons, right? After all, a lot of our people or relatives have gone and settled there. A lot of our children and everyone are going there seeking jobs and studying out there. We have a lot of second generation Indians have grown up in their societies, in their politics, in their thing, and we have to have. But this event should change things and bring things about to a better conclusion. I mean, that's my view, because there's no point in picking up a fight with the West and saying no, no, yeah, it's better to come to better terms with them than pick fights with them.
Sir,
Yeah, because we
I
need
would
we
tend
need
to
them in their growth also.
no, I tend to fully agree with you. The point is, if India backs down, it'll be admitting, yes, it was responsible.
No, no, they're not backing.
Now, we don't expect Canada to apologize. We don't
No,
expect that. But we expect Trudeau to say, let's put it behind us, let's move on.
he won't.
Because he's the one who started the accusation. You see, he's the one who announced it not quietly, but
But
he
openly.
announced it on the floor of the House of Commons. अब अगर उसने announcement किया, and he is the one who threw out the Indian diplomat first. India did not.
Yeah, yeah,
Now, अगर आपने शुरू किया, then you have to create the conditions for a rejoin.
yeah.
Now, if you look at it, sir, ये जो पहला ban on the visas, there is already pressure mounting on Trudeau because families are all set to come. The OCI cards is going to mount further pressure on Trudeau. So he has to create an environment for India to restore its ban.
See,
हमारे पास, how
the
many
way
Indians go to Canada? That's why Canada has not stopped the issuing of visas because there's
visas.
hardly anything except students, which is
Yeah.
30
Yeah.
billion dollars to them.
See, not only that, the fact is, Trudeau might not say, let's put it behind us. The people of Canada might say, let's put it behind us by taking Trudeau out. That's
Correct.
the way I look at it,
That is the
right?
way it should be. But then the elections
That's
there in 2025, unless there is something which happens now.
no, it might happen. For all you
Huh.
know, it might happen.
Might happen.
For
If
all
it
you know,
does happen, it's a different ball game. But
it's
if
a
it
different
doesn't,
ballgame,
then it
right?
has to be the
Well,
other
that's
way.
okay. Look, the point I'm repeatedly getting is it will change the behavior pattern of the other countries.
Correct.
That's the major thing.
Huh.
And going ahead, we will have a more equitable way of putting across things to them and dealing
Absolutely.
with them, right? And that goes for China also.
Correct.
It goes for China also, and people must realize that we are not going to take it lying down anywhere. That's the major thing which I
That
think
is
has
the
come out.
message which we must convey, sir. And we've
Must
conveyed
convey, conveyed it. And I'll go back in time. It's not that we've conveyed. Firstly, our history suggests that India is a country which doesn't shy away from confrontation if needed, and that's been our history in the recent past.
correct, sir.
And the second thing is that, look, if it is China, we'll take on China. After all, we are taking on China. Who went and did this G20 in Arunachal Pradesh and said two fingers to what you did? It was India. Has anyone other country did?
Arunachal,
Who,
Ladakh.
Ladakh? Who bashed up these fellows in Yangtze and sent them back? Tell me one other country which has done that. Okay, the same USA allowed China to construct the South China Sea islands in
Huh.
2014-15. If they had looked the other way, if they had not looked the other way, that this problem wouldn't have been
That
there the
island
way it
won't have
has
come up.
come up. In fact, just
Absolutely.
1 hour before I did a program on that. The problems which are coming up are, that South China Sea between China and Philippines are heating up. There might be a fracas one of these days, but that's a different story. So I think that major message that anyone who wants to be our partner in our strategic partnership needs to respect us.
Absolutely.
right? Yeah.
Right,
Now,
sir.
going ahead, how do you see things going? There's a last question. After that, I'll take some, questions from the
Sir, I
audience.
expect things to start cooling off in the sense that nothing much is going to start floating from Canada. अभी जो आवाज आनी थी, you find that there is not much. The whole focus in Canada has shifted to the Nazi. What happens with uh, Jaishankar meeting the US NSA and the Secretary of State? Let us see what flows from there. But otherwise, the Canadian ambassador, the High Commissioner to India, usko jo boot mila, I don't think he'll ever forget that for the rest of his
Forget it.
life.
Yeah. Life.
But the fact is that I hopefully it should not escalate further. Jagmeet Singh will try playing some games like he's begun now already. India is influencing Canadian elections or politics by writing, by publishing articles anti-Canada in the Indian press and the Canadian press. It is interfering in Canadian politics. वो सब तो बकवास है, we're not bothered. But let us see the way things move now, because the way the last protests were, the way the posters have come out in the photo in that photograph that you showed, is displaying a stand down by the Canadian government. The
But the
posters
Canadian
have been
people,
on for weeks. Suddenly, overnight, they were removed from every Gurdwara in Canada. So there is a stand down which is coming in. Now this stand down is the first indicator. Let us see in the next possibly about a week or 10 days how it goes.
yeah, I think that's the way I also look at it. Uh, I also see people have to want to move on, especially USA, UK, Australia. They want to move on, and there's too much at stake to keep India out of the game.
And sir,
Because
he was a terrorist, a declared terrorist,
yeah, declared
firing
terrorist.
AK-47s in Canada. And for him, if you're looking at letting the relationship between two nations go on a stupid issue, I think
It's
it is
no,
being
yeah,
crazy.
I think a lot of people within a lot of politicians within Canada and the press within media and within Canada is alive to this issue because I've not seen I've not seen any newspaper in Canada giving something good about Trudeau.
Ah,
I have not seen even one article which has stood by Trudeau or for Trudeau. I have not seen any one article, even in USA, which has really stood by Trudeau. I'm not talking of ragtag articles. I'm talking of New York Times or Washington Post and all that. A few slanted, uh, pointed fingers at India, but on the first second day, uske baad it's gone to the back channel.
it's gone. That's
It's
it.
gone. So I see this going to a closure, and I see some sort of normalcy returning. I wouldn't say with Canada, but with other countries, with an enhanced standing of India globally. Do you
Correct, sir.
agree with that? Right.
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else you want to add, or should we
Well,
take
sir.
some